From Marvel wanting money from Hulk Hogan to Black Saturday, we're talking about the rise of Hulkamania right here on Prime Time with Shaw Mooney. Mooney, how you doing today?
I am doing tremendously, and I really have been enjoying these conversations about the Hulkster. I went back and read a few of his books. Not literary classics, but it's a lot of great information in there. And I'm glad we're telling the story. We're diving deep in there, Steve. Boy, we've got the shovels out, and we're just digging deep to bring all the details out of Hulkamania, how it all started, and where it went, and how it changed the world of professional wrestling forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Immortality, as Gorilla Monsoon would say it one day. But
Mm.
Hulkamania is a brand new brand in the WWF. January 84, Hogan wins the championship from Iron Sheik. We're off. But we now have to establish who is Hulk Hogan. Why are we cheering him? And before this, he was wearing blue, randomly white. He
Yeah.
chooses yellow. Why do you think yellow and red were the perfect colors for him?
Well, I doubt that
Mustard and
he.
ketchup.
Yeah. That's right. The hot dog. Uh, no, but I don't know if there was a deep thought into it of getting out the color palette and what's going to work. I think that the bright colors all came together, yellow and red. The decision there to make that happen, I mean, was brilliant. Who knew? I mean, to this day, you see the yellow and red together, you think Hulkamania. You see somebody walking down a street with a yellow T-shirt on with red writing on it. Doesn't matter. You immediately say Hulkamania. So that color combination is forever tied to Terry Bollea and what he was able to do. And when he talks about those early days, it wasn't easy for him, and he realized early on that I've got to be behind all this. I'm the one that's going to have to make this happen. There's not these people in this business aren't we want thinking we want to help this guy succeed. If anything, they tried to keep him from succeeding. They for numbers of reasons, besides the fact of just seeing what he could do to an audience. But him, taking over an arena or something like that took attention away from them. They all wanted to be, popular. And after a while, they started realizing, though, when the guy was in the building, everybody was making money. But early on, when all this was coming together, Terry Bollea realized that if this is going to happen, it's on me, and I'm not going to trust anybody. In a sense that because many times in the early days of his career, he thought that people genuinely were trying to help him and totally screwed him, and tried to get him out of the business. So those lessons learned early on stayed with him for his entire career. Now, fortunately, he met up with somebody by the name of Vince McMahon Jr. And Terry talks about when they had the first few meetings together, they were absolutely on the same page. They had this vision of what professional wrestling could become. And I would have loved to have heard, the discussion they were going on. I think that, he mentions one of the first encounters that, they spent together with hours and hours and hours and hours talking about what they wanted to do as Vince persuaded him to come to the WWF. Of course, it becomes the WWF. But him, talking about all these things they want to do. And so when he made that move, he felt, okay, I found a soulmate here in the sense of promoting. I mean, before, you probably, if the Hulkster would have laid out what he thought could happen with his career and what he wanted to do, the other promoters would have been like, whoa, hey, let's
yellow. You want to wear yellow?
Yeah, let's slow down here, Chief, and we'll go. We'll bring you along. But no, with Vince, he was, This is everything that I want to happen. unfortunately, he goes to the WWF, and Senior is still in charge. So it took a while, but once a Junior takes over, it's balls to the wall. They launch this, the vision. They start putting it and making it reality, and it's just amazing that in terms of it taking off, really didn't take that long. You're saying, like you were at 84, and that victory over the Sheik, and thank God that Sheik didn't decide to break Hulk Hogan's leg for the contracted price or something that was offered, as the legend goes.
Yeah.
But even he realized that, this guy's going places, and if it's going to help me make some money, I'm right there. So these beginnings, was just phenomenal to sit there and watch as it all started to come together.
Oh yeah. And again, when guys are wearing black tights or blue tights or red
Yeah.
tights, that's what you always usually would see. So a yellow color, honestly, red and yellow, just it seems wide. Like you want to
Pop.
change the
Yeah.
palette, you want to change the color. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem that crazy now. Where later on, Macho Man will be wearing the most elaborate costumes, or Warrior or Demolition, but Hogan just choosing yellow. I'm not saying he's the
Yeah.
first person to wear yellow, but anyone after him who tried to put on yellow, they're like, oh, so you trying to dress like Hulk Hogan? That's what you're trying to do
Yeah.
here? Where's the bandana? Why get a bandana on? That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
you could imagine too when he made that choice and started going out there like that. Like people like, what the F? Like, whoa, like this isn't what we do here. And he's just
right.
pop. It wasn't like it wasn't being this flamboyant, like a gorgeous George or something like that. No, it was still very, masculine the way he was, and the headband and all the other stuff that went with it. But I mean, when you're thinking, big tough guy color, yellow isn't really come to mind,
No.
So
no, it's not. You're right. But we get everything. We get the boots. We get the tank top with Hulkamania on it, where he's ripping it off. We're getting the finishes of the leg drop and the powering up. We even get the three demandments. I know it changes as time goes on, but training, saying your prayers, taking your vitamins. Those are the first three that he decided to bring into 1984. So again, another piece of the puzzle of Hulk Hogan. What is he about? He wants us to be healthy. He wants us to train. He wants us to pray. Okay, perfect. He's an all-American boy. We all can get behind this guy. So having those demandments, you have catchphrases with The Rock and Austin and Macho Man, but Hogan creating this becomes part of who he is.
Yeah. And it was brilliant in the sense that, you start building this army, that's unique, that you get to come along and you get to be, part of this, group, this special.
The Hulkamaniacs.
Hulkamaniacs. And that's, I don't, anybody, I'm sure other wrestlers had something similar like that, but nothing on a scale like this that was, it was a wave that was just, taking off. And Hulk Hogan is laser focused. He knows who he's going after. He knows who he's appealing to. And this shows that, at this point in his career, he knows what the impact he's having on crowds when he goes out there. And he talks about he talks about early on in his life when when he was on stage playing in the bands, the impact with crowds that he could have just by stuff that he was doing on stage then. So earlier in his life, he's already realizing he's got this gift of not only being able to have people react to him, but also, perceiving what they're feeling, which that's what wrestling is all about, that psychology. But he's got this gift of knowing where, he would mention many times, I knew what the guy up in row 78 was thinking when I did it, that, and wait, I'm losing this over here. So this is what I'm going to do to change that. So early on, he already knows that power that he has.
Oh, yeah.
And he even, he talks about it too, that when it really starts to build and he keeps thinking, because for him it's simple. It's easy. It's like breathing to him to be able to do this with crowds. And he kept thinking, well, one of the other guys, they're going to see what I'm doing, and they're going to start doing it, or they're going to figure me out. And they didn't. They never did. They just couldn't. And uh, a lot of it was just inherent. It's just the genetics that made him who he was. That no one else could match that. But it was also just being able to understand and be able to read a crowd like that, like no other really before. Like not to that scale. There were certainly others. We could go off on the list, but not to this level where crowds are just popping. And he learned a lot of this in Japan. Sure you've heard of it, that these crowds in Japan are the toughest crowds ever. They don't show a lot of emotion. And like when he went over there with Freddie Blassie, and Blassie was a master heel, but also learning from that other side as the bad guy and how to get crowd reaction. Like if you could get the Japanese to react like that, come back over here where American crowds are a hell of a lot easier. They're very reactionary. It was he probably felt like he was doing, like magic, that, look, watch this, I do this, this, wow, oh boy, that works, and,
That's so, I know, is that so funny
like
though?
come over to you go to each side of, I saw it happen hundreds of times, and
It always worked.
didn't matter where he was, didn't
No.
matter what city it was. Yeah, just phenomenal.
It is phenomenal, but like they're putting all the pieces together too. We talked about the colors. We have the hulking up. We're branding our fans. We're not just WWE fans. We're Hulkamaniacs. Say, well, I don't want to be just a WWE fan. I want to be a Hulkamaniac. I'm going to train. They even eventually come out with a Hulk Hogan weight set and workout system where you can be just like Hulk Hogan. Saying your prayers, being a good person. It's so bizarre how easy it sounds out loud, but yet you have to get all the right pieces into the puzzle to see the full picture. So you brought up Japan though. 84, January, February, he travels back to Japan like he was the year before and the year before that with Classy Freddie, as you brought up. The WWF is international now. It's no longer just, hey, we're in New York. We are crossing over borders. We're going across the world. But he's a brand, Mooney, that's growing. And anytime something grows like that, you see sharks in the water who realize they can make money off that too. And for a while, they were calling Hulk Hogan the Incredible Hulk Hogan. Well, if you know anything about comic books, you have the Incredible Hulk. The Green Man who gets angry and smashes things. So Marvel Comics comes after the WWF and Hulk Hogan and says, like, hey, man, you're called the Incredible Hulk Hogan? That's infringing on our IP, so we're going to sign a deal. A 20-year agreement where they will take a percentage, Marvel that is, of Hulk Hogan merchandise. They're going to trademark Hulk Hogan, Hulkster, Hulkamania. Before we get into that, how common is that where you see a brand growing and everyone's like, oh, I want a piece of that right now?
Oh God, absolutely. See that every day where people are trademark phrases.
Yes.
So it's a good thing that Hulk Hogan didn't, for example, choose green and yellow for his colors.
Green and purple, maybe.
Yeah.
Even worse.
Yeah. But everybody wants a piece of the action, and Hulkamania, I don't think was really that the idea behind it was the Incredible Hulk, the comic book character. That it was just kind of more that that hulking guy, like Hulk. But of course, you can't get away from it. That was certainly going to be identified with, and so it was understandable that Marvel would come after them. But man, what a deal! I don't know. I can't even imagine what they ended up taking in from that. But it's kind of amazing to me that they didn't think about that even before when they started up with their character, with Terry. But
the Incredible Hulk Hogan. It's like, oh, you're the Incredible Spider-Man. Like you can't you can't just take a name and be like, well, just strap another name in front of it and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and so Not surprising, I think, is what it comes down to, that they were going to come after the name, and they also realized, yeah, we go to court with this, we're probably going to lose, and we can't lose this character. They understand the power of it in professional wrestling. Marvel probably didn't. They just, took advantage of an opportunity here. But I'm sure that Vince McMahon and Terry Bollea knew, God, what if we lose in this and we can't even use it? We can't. He can't be the Hulkster anymore. All this goes away. When he's going to start again and be the big great Terminator, and then come after him
Golden
for that.
Sterling can return.
Yeah, what I mean. So they had him, and they had to make a deal because they didn't want to shut this down. And so Marvel was in a great position
Yeah,
to get what they want. And I don't know exactly. I know we've got the details of it, but you can imagine.
Financial terms, 0.9% of Hulk Hogan merchandise revenue.
Yeah, that's like a point. Like 1% of everything.
Everything.
Wow.
So imagine the rise of Hulk Hogan and everything that involves. You have.
I would be interesting to see how much over the years that they ended up making on that. Yeah.
Well, it's like obviously the WWF and Hogan made more money by giving them 0.9% than losing all of it because, like you just said, they would have lost in court. So they had to pretty much.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine if that would have happened? This Hulkamania would they have been able to come up with something else? Would he have been? I don't know. That's another great discussion. And yeah.
And according to other rumors, it's 10% of other Hulk Hogan earnings underneath the Hulk name. Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, Incredible Hulk Hogan, things like that. $100 per match. I find that interesting because, man, you lost out on that deal. $100 per match? You could have easily gotten probably thousands if based on what happens eventually, but you make a deal in 84 versus make it in, 85, 86.
Yeah. Well, and you think about that too, as you just mentioned, all these things that they were, able to really get in there. They didn't. There was never a Hulkamania over the Incredible Hulk. There wasn't the Hulkster, all these other things, and it just showed you them where they had them. Yeah. That they could say, it's got to include this, it's got to include this, it's got to include that. Where that was all totally stuff that the WWF came up with, but they had them, and it's just amazing that that they were able to get away with that. But they realized that they couldn't fight them. And I'm sure they did everything they could, but they didn't want to go to court.
No. And it was always bizarre as a kid. I'd be watching like a Coliseum video or a magazine, and at the bottom you would see Marvel in like the real bottom of copyright. I'm like, what is that doing there? And I didn't realize that till years later that, oh wait, Marvel had Hulk Hogan by the balls, was like, listen, we want all this, and you can keep doing whatever you want to do. We're gonna go back to making comic books, maybe make movies someday. We'll see. But
and I think that people, and you mentioned that people thought that it was connected, and like that's where it came from, and that's why it was included on these things, and that wasn't it. It was rights deals because they had a piece of the name, but other than that, it really had nothing to do with it. The Hulk never made reference to it or a superhero or anything like that. That wasn't he stayed very clear of that. And when it came down to characters, there was nothing similar between the green Incredible Hulk,
right,
and Terry Bollea, the Hulkster, the Hulk, Hulkamania, and all that had nothing to do with the other. But because of the the similarity in the name, they had them.
Yeah, 100%. Like I maybe years later that wouldn't have them, but at this point, Marvel is a juggernaut as a company, and the WWF is just rising up. According to rumors, again in 2005, Hogan actually bought back the rights to all that, so he was able to get all the names from Hulk and Hulkamania. He didn't have to give any more money to Marvel any longer. A 20-year.
Yeah, and it wasn't for that much, right?
No, again, the reported number $750,000. To me, that is way too low when you're buying back the name brand of Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania. That
just kind of blows me away because at that point, I mean, that is,
It's a known brand, millions of
oh
dollars.
my God, it's one of the most well-known, recognized brands in the world.
Even the
I mean, come
font.
on. Is there anybody you could ask you ever heard of Hulkamania before? They're going to go, oh, no, what is that? Is that the comic book character? You
Does he
know?
wear purple to get mad and smash
Yeah,
things?
right. And gets mad. Yeah.
You're so right about
So,
that. You are 100%. Hulk
hmm.
Hogan has become the Elvis, the Marilyn Monroe. It's a pop culture person in American history that even if you don't know what they did or anything like that, you recognize their image because of how popular they were. So
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
Hulk Hogan is
arguably
there.
one of the most famous people ever in entertainment, and maybe beyond. I mean, who
Oh,
didn't
yeah. You're right
to
about
this
that.
day? But back then, when he was at his peak, and you said it went global. Um, yeah, you could go to different countries, and people would be wearing a Hulkamania T-shirt in the most obscure places of the world. They get a hold of they got hold of those Coliseum home videos.
They did.
They had a VHS machine. You were in,
You were all in. Oh yeah, look at
right?
that. Don't pop. Oh
The poses.
yeah, you gotta get the poses
Yeah,
in. And this
yeah,
one, cup the hands.
yeah.
And then you go, "Do you want it? Do you want it?"
Yeah.
Nah,
Little
no,
kids doing that everywhere, right? Everywhere you went, the kids are all like
They
doing the
knew.
poses. And,
They knew exactly who they were.
those
It's so funny.
Hulkamaniacs.
Well, with Marvel getting a piece of the pie, the WWF keeps expanding TV syndication, territory expansion. They even acquire Maple Leaf Wrestling in Toronto. I believe this is where Jack Tunney actually came from. So they
Yeah.
picked up Jack Tunney there. And but
Well, what's interesting about the Canadians is that that whole period of time, um, you know, they weren't very unlike in any of the other territories in the United States that didn't weren't real happy about what Vince McMahon was trying to do, and they're doing everything they can to try and stop this juggernaut as he continues to swallow these territories. In Canada, it was no different, and there were the other outfits up there, but Maple Leaf was smart enough to realize, you're not stopping this wave, this tidal wave, and got on board and
smart.
ended up, being a great move for them because they were able to bring in all these superstars and to their shows there, and still, in a sense, still be Maple Leaf Wrestling, and but benefit from being a part of that part of the WWF. And Jack Tunney and his family were the ones that were behind all the Maple Leaf, and Jack was one of the principals. And so he wasn't just this great president, very respected throughout the world to this day.
Of course. I'd vote for him right now. All right.
Well, but really, in all seriousness, that they were smart enough to get on the ship when it was sailing, and a lot of these other outfits survived, but they didn't thrive because of the WWF and what they were able to do, and that even impacted Canadian wrestling for a long time, for sure.
Well, this shows the expansion too of the WWF.
Yeah.
They're not just, again, like I said, they're not in New York anymore. They're now in Canada. They are traveling
Mhm.
across to making sure that they can expand. And one of the biggest moves in professional wrestling happens in 1984. Black Saturday, the WWF purchases Georgia Championship Wrestling, a majority of the company from Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Well, this gives them an opportunity to be on TBS. And
Mhm.
this was a giant move for Vince McMahon and his expansion, not just in Canada, but with Georgia. And this
Yeah.
area is all about Southern style wrestling. Well, now you're not having that on your television programming. You're getting WWF shows with your cartoonish characters, with your over the top performances, which I love, but they did not in Georgia. Talk about Black Saturdays being one of the craziest moments at the time, because now shows just replay shows all the time. But this was different.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about this period of time too. Vince always had that vision of, initially he started with, I want to get 100 television stations to take our programming. And what that meant was that he would literally go to TV stations, contact them, whatever, and say, I want to get our show on. And they would say, okay, well, you can buy an hour, buy a half hour. And that's what he had to do. They weren't giving him any deals.
No.
And so he would buy the time, and then he would have, the programming that the superstars challenge, and he would sell his own spots within the shows. That's how they would make money from that and try and, pay for that television time. But the idea was just get the product out there. And he had this in his head that if I get to 100 markets, then that's when it's all going to change. Remarkably, that's pretty much the way it happened. Now, he faltered along the way where he was almost bankrupt, and because he was buying the time. He wasn't making money off doing this. It was all to get it out there. And he felt that once people see it, then they'll start, coming to the shows, and that's where we're going to start making the money. And as we know, people, after this was all taken off, they were coming to him and they were giving him deals. But at that point, that wasn't the case. And there were a few people that bailed Vince out, gave him some, came up with money so that he could continue to do this, because he did not falter in his plan. He didn't say, okay, we're good at 90 or something like that. It was to get to this point. Well, also, with cable in its infancy, then, if people will remember, everything was the 3 channels basically, and you might have an independent in town, but that was our viewing world. Well, cable offered the opportunity to have 500 channels, and Turner Broadcasting was one of the first super stations. If you remember, they called them super stations. And you could get on a system and be what would basically be local programming here could be broadcast all over the world if you had cable. And Vince saw the brilliance of that, and how that would allow to get his product out to all these places without having to go to these stations one by one by one. And he wasn't the first. There were other. It's funny because people talk about Vince was this monster who was just barreling over all these other promoters. Well, these promoters had the same idea. They just didn't have not only the balls to pull it off, but the art of making these deals,
right,
that Vince did. And so, getting back to where we were here on this, with the product ending up on TBS, it was going to be seen all these different places, but where the focus of it was, in Atlanta and in Georgia and all that, the down south. Well, the exposure down there was a completely different kind of wrestling. We've talked about it many times about Mid-South and everything, and that was more like old school wrestling. And to anybody down there was this purist or whatever, that stuff that they were doing now up north, the WWF was cartoon. It was buffoonish. It was,
how dare they?
It wasn't wrestling. It was storytelling and, superhero crap.
Right.
So you can imagine when these people are exposed to it initially, the majority of them, like, they're used to JYD and, people like Hacksaw Jim Duggan that are these just, maulers and brawlers.
Right.
And then
you got the Samoans.
You got Hulk Hogan going, this stuff. And they're like, what the hell? So initially, of course, you're going to see that you're going to have probably not a great reaction to what people are seeing, but Vince McMahon knew better. So did Hulk Hogan. But we've seen what this does to people. We've seen how it's grown. We see how they love it. Yeah. And I don't think, maybe initially, the like you said, it was a black day in professional wrestling.
Black Saturday, as the historians call it.
Yes. I don't think that they went, oh God, I can't believe that's the reaction we're getting. I think that they knew that they'd already seen this happen time and time again. And then comes around, and then it just people get it, and then it starts happening and building. So yeah, initially I think that they probably expected that to happen, but they knew better.
Yeah. Well, the WTBS is getting like
Yeah,
angry phone calls from fans asking, "Where is my Georgia Championship Wrestling? Why
right.
is this man Hulk Hogan cupping his ear and posing for endless
Yeah,
amounts of time? Like I want to see my wrestling." And so the ratings gradually decline. Now I don't have the exact numbers, but from what I can tell is
yeah.
they're going down. So that means the final episode that airs on TBS is March 30th, 1985. Vince
Mhm.
McMahon eventually sells a time slot to Jim Crockett. Well, he sells it at such an amount of money that he eventually makes a profit off of what he spent to even get this time slot in the first place. So Vince kind of made out on this deal, but some people will say this is the beginning of the Ted Turner Vince McMahon rivalry where Vince is the one who sold it to Jim Crockett, and then eventually Ted Turner buys it and turns it into WCW. So I don't know where the rivalry actually begins and starts. Like, why would some people say it starts now?
Well, I mean, because I'm sure that this got Ted Turner's attention, and Vince always talked about that Ted was in the wrestling
Yeah.
business. He just hated the way that and to Ted Turner, he wasn't that he had any love for professional wrestling. It was all about the numbers. So I think that set him off initially, but it was also, it was a battle of the egos. I mean, you got two guys that could not be more evenly matched as far as that go, at least back then. Um, Turner was known to be this loudmouth who spoke out on all kinds of stuff, and you know, so that was a natural rivalry that you're gonna see. I mean, it was Andre Hulk Hogan kind of
Mm.
people would love to see that in the ring. So uh, I'm sure that Vince had few dealings before all this, but this was very public, and in some ways, people thought that that the WWF had failed
Mm.
this first foray into cable television or down south or something like that. And so, Vince had something to prove, and I totally think that that's really was the beginnings of this that rivalry between Ted Turner and Vince McMahon. And genuinely, I think that they didn't like each other.
Mm.
I think that it wasn't. A lot of times you'll see it's professional. Uh, this rivalry for business. This one got very personal.
Well, especially when money is involved, and Ted Turner
Yeah,
has a lot of money, and Vince is, he's trying to expand. He's trying to make his business profitable versus borrowing money. Versus Ted Turner's like, yeah, I have a superstation. What you got? Like, and you're like, oh, I
yeah,
have this wrestling company. It's doing
yeah,
well, but it's growing. You're like, yeah, but I have the superstation, so suck it.
yeah.
That's how I
And
imagine the
even though,
conversations went.
yeah, but even though, like I said, that they got the programming on down there and stuff, and then they end up, they're pull it off eventually. But the exposure of it, Vince knew that that he got people's attention down there, and that overall helped promote the product. There was no question about that.
Yes,
So
yes, I agree.
yeah, so it is like you said, they call it Black Saturday, and it was doomed from. And I don't believe that for a second. It was just maybe it wasn't ready at that time, but it's something they had to go through because with everything else, uh, like these growing pains, but the company learned something from it, and then eventually see what happens. It just takes off, and it's not just it's no longer the East, it's no longer the South, it's everywhere. It's across the country, and then it's spreading around the world. So
That's a good point about the
yeah,
expansion because again, being everywhere all at once on TBS exposes you to Hulk Hogan in this business. Once it's ripped off of Georgia Championship Wrestling channels, you're like, wait, what is this? Where'd it go? I want to find it. So you search it out.
well,
And then, of course,
right. I
you're finding
mean,
it on Saturday mornings or brand new shows. But yeah, the expansion helps here because it gets more money in Vince's pocket, which allows him to do more fun things, which is one of my favorite shows, Tuesday Night Titans. Tuesday Night Titans is pretty much a talk show. You know, Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Johnny Carson. Tuesday Night Titans debuts in
You could
May.
put him right up there with Johnny Carson. That's very.
I knew I would find my my list in my head. Jay Leno, David Letterman, all those guys. Conan O'Brien.
Vince McMahon.
You got to give them all out. But then Vince McMahon hosts his own show with Lord Alfred Hayes as his sidekick. Dude, let's talk about this show because, again, talk shows are huge, but this is no longer a wrestling show. Tuesday Night Titans is about building characters and developing storylines without having to be in the ring.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I think it was, and a lot of fun. I wish I would have been there when they were doing that. I think that would have been great to be a part of. I know Alfred had a blast doing that show, being kind of the Ed McMahon character. And, he'd be a foil, which, he didn't mind. Vince always, was putting him in these ridiculous, humiliating situations. But Alfred loved it. And the whole show, I don't know if you remember, there was another show on early on. I think it was called Fernwood Tonight. Oh. And it was a spoof on talk shows.
Okay.
And so it had that feel to it. And Vince knew that, you just make it, corny and just over the top. And he could do that with the wrestlers. And it was a different way, as you said, to build the characters and have them come on and talk without doing what we'd gotten very used to seeing of the promos, cutting the promos with Gene or
by the ring. A lot of it was by the ring.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so, but it was this completely different format. You bring them on. And, it wasn't the idea of it wasn't that, here, this is the way I am in the ring. And this is me when I'm sitting here having a conversation. That wasn't what it was about. These guys would come on in full character and Vince would use, ask these crazy questions or whatever. And then it would piss somebody off and there would be some kind of altercation on the set. And, it was just, and to have that happen in that format, because we all grown up with, talk shows, especially like Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, where you come out and have a very civilized conversation and talk about and push things, Well, then you got these guys are coming on and they're, like breaking furniture and, putting them in crazy situations. Doing skits and stuff like that, but they were always in character. Whoever that guy was still that character. It wasn't that they were, taking him out of it. And it's just like, this is what I do in my spare time. You like to, I like pottery and, and I took up the guitar a few years ago. Yeah. So I could sing to my kids. That, that wasn't what this was. It was an over the top, just another format though, to push these characters and put them in what were supposed normal life, conversation. You get just come out and meet this guy, and that's not what you got.
Right.
And it was great, and that that got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
People that would catch that. They'd watch it just for that, and it wasn't. You didn't get to see guys wrestle, but you got to see all these crazy confrontations and dumbass skits that they did and everything else.
Lord Alfred Hayes was the perfect person to be there too.
He was.
He is so funny. This is totally off topic. I was watching a Coliseum video. You're bringing a Coliseum videotape to headquarters, and someone says, "Oh, you're gonna have someone drive you there." You open the door. It's Lord Alfred Hayes, and boy, the banter between you two in that car is better than the matches that you're watching. So seeing Tuesday Night Titans with there's Kamala trying to have a normal conversation.
In full character.
It's Kamala. It's not, I like to play Kamala, but, I'd rather like to do Hamlet,
Yes. Went to Harvard. I was, like, in full costume, they'd come out, like.
Brilliant.
And Alfred talked so fondly. He was hated when they shut that down because he had a blast. You see all this stuff. They bring Andre on, and there's that famous scene where Andre's got his hand in front of Alfred's face. Just
Yes.
covering his whole face and dwarfs him. Yeah, so it was a great format. And was kind of the precursor to what they would do later with primetime with Bobby and Gorilla,
Yeah.
but we didn't really bring guests on like that. But it was kind of that format where it was kind of a talk show kind of feel to it.
Some banter back and forth. And,
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, he's a huge part of the Tuesday Night Titans run. He's constantly on with Mean Gene promoting Python powder, which is a fictional supplement to
Yeah.
make you strong in the professional world of wrestling. It's not Ico Pro yet. It's Python Power. So
Well,
I hope we can find that on eBay somewhere. Someone must have Python powder for sale. But while this is all going on, the rise of Hulk Hogan, all this good stuff, in the backdrop is MTV. MTV is becoming the most popular thing for kids, and it's the coolest thing. It's in pop culture. Everybody wants a piece of it. Well, the WWE, which is also on the rise, they get involved in a relationship, and they have an event, Brawl to End It All, on MTV. 9 million people watch this event. Cyndi Lauper's there. Wendy Richter beats Fabulous Moolah. Hulk Hogan's there, defeating Greg the Hammer Valentine. This is a breakthrough moment. It's no longer we're doing well. We are now in pulp culture. And that's where the
yeah.
WWF lands at this point in time in life. Now, for you, is this the moment where everything, we've had a good run so far, but this is where everything goes from here to here?
Yeah, and over the years, the WWE has been well known for being able to, with promotional ideas and how to put events together and all these things. But that period of time is really it's like a marvel of promotion of just marketing brilliance to think about this. That marriage with MTV, which I was living in New York City at the time. And I remember I had this little 12-inch color TV in my shoebox of an apartment. And I remember that I had MTV on basically 24/7, just for the music and the videos and everything else that they were doing. And I can just imagine these executives who, from MTV, when somebody brought up the idea of, there's a lot going on with this Hulk Hogan guy. Maybe we can do something. I don't know how maybe Cyndi Lauper got involved and whatever and all that, but you imagine at some point that somebody made that suggestion, and you can imagine them sitting around in this room going, "What? Wrestling?" There's all these people that just didn't get it,
or remember it from before it used to
you
be.
just don't get. You don't understand. This is happening, and we need to get on it. And a lot of young people are really into it, and of course, that was their target audience. And so when they decide, okay, well, all right, however it progressed to that point where they do this event, and then, like you said, the reaction. I could just see, these are the numbers from last night.
Oh my God.
What else can we do here? Okay, I get it. Let's do this. Get him on the phone, get Vince on the phone. Let's see what. And so he got to the point, and I was very into the world. I was working for Major League Baseball Productions at the time. I was all into sports and covering stuff like that. But I vividly remember that everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about Hulk Hogan and the Hulkamania and MTV and Cyndi Lauper and Lou Albano and all these people getting involved, Mr. T, and and just everybody. It was no longer this professional wrestling crowd. It was getting the attention of mainstream America, and that was a period of time that, I'm sure we can find a few examples, but where you see something like that just grab the attention of not just the country but the entire world. And it was what really launched the WWF and Hulkamania.
Yeah.
when rock and wrestling, everybody was talking about
It's again, it's one of those historical moments in professional wrestling that I don't think gets talked about enough without the involvement of Cyndi Lauper and
it.
having her
Hmm.
hit and Captain Lou in that video.
Yeah,
Girls just want to have fun. You still hear that song in today's world. You go to a store, it's still playing. Like her connection
yeah,
to all of this. And then also you need a product that matches MTV's excitement. And Hulk Hogan at this time has that excitement. He has that the charisma as we talked about. Without Hogan, I don't think there is the connection between MTV because the way he was connecting with audiences, you didn't see that from somebody else before him.
no, not like that, not on this level. I mean, come on. It was just, the stratosphere. Um, when that all was happening, and we were talking about this before, was there anybody more famous when it got to that point at the time? Was Michael Jackson or along those lines? But
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan was that big, and it really is just phenomenal to think about how that happened.
it's again 9 million people watch
Crazy,
this. So think about that too. This is 1984. Not everyone has cable. In today's world, everyone has internet in their house. Every single person has internet in their house, but they've cut their cable over the years. But before that, cable was it, and without cable, you didn't get to see all these moments. But the whole world doesn't have cable in 1984. This is still a new thing. A channel just playing music related things.
right?
Like that's shocking to think of because now it's every channel has cooking or dancing or something. But 84 music and Hogan, Cyndi Lauper, and Wendy Richter do go on MTV, and they used to have guest VJs instead of DJs. It was video DJs. Get it, folks?
Right.
And that's what they called them. And
Yep. DJs.
so they hosted a couple of shows. It's actually on YouTube. I watch it. It's pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
And again, another thing, we're going to bring you in, and you're not going to just be doing wrestling. We want you to host one of our shows we have on daily. Pretty important.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Pop culture really, and they were just embedded in it, and for that brief time, just took it over. And I don't want to say it was a fad because it lasted a long time.
Yeah.
For when you talk about things like that happening, like the fad to me is a couple of weeks or a month or a few months. This was taken off, and fans that would stay with the product forever. But yeah, it changed. It changed the culture. It changed culture. That in that sense that it became part of this, just like MTV, and the WWF was going along for that ride right there. And it you talked, that was like a rock and wrestling era, 2 3 years there, and identified a lot of those superstars that were there that were gone after that for a number of reasons. But during that period of time, it was just what the WWF needed and what Hulk Hogan needed, to build this massive army of fans that would stay with the WWE forever. And especially during those early years that, as we said, rock and wrestling era, and then we went to kind of the golden era, launched it right into the golden era that you and I love so much.
Yes, we do love
Fun.
we do love. I do love it. And you brought up earlier like where you were working, and people are talking about this MTV moment, talking about the WWF at the time.
Yeah.
We don't really talk about it that much because it sounds like so weird, like water cooler talk, where this is word of mouth. It's not like you have Twitter or Instagram or social media.
Yeah.
And if you're not reading a newspaper and someone writes an article about it, you don't know it exists unless someone else tells you it exists. So let's talk about that for a moment. Word of mouth in pop culture, I think people take for granted in today's world because tweets go viral. But this time, let's talk about that. Telling someone that it's great and then them actually really listening to you and going searching it out.
Yeah, well, and that has never changed. As far as you always want to be the one to find something. You don't want it to be that that I got on this late, or I'm shoving it down your throat because I keep showing you promos and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
There's no better marketing tool in the world than a friend of yours saying, man, have you seen this? Or, now they share something with you or whatever. But back then, as you said, you didn't have the phone that you just,
No.
oh, this just came up in my feed. You didn't have this ability to watch something on your phone. And also, the internet wasn't what it is by any stretch of the imagination. You couldn't sit in front of your laptop, or it just wasn't. We had computers then, but not. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of it had to be that way, but it was could not have been a better situation, because that word of mouth, as we say, uh, was responsible for a lot of it. I mean, that's exactly how it happened. And everybody, in a sense, kind of their idea was like, I found this. This, and I telling my friends, you got to see this. And then it just kept building and building and building, because we didn't have the instant uh, ability to share information like we have today. But it's true today still. It's just in a different form of how you catch something. Like, why, some people that certainly have figured out how I make something go viral, but in most cases you don't really know why. It has to just be because people want to see it. That's it. It just comes down. There's no real explanation that somebody wants to see a squirrel ski or something, whatever it is. The back of a little speedboat or whatever.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't know, but it's still, even to this day, that's the way it is, that people find it, and you can't really define why. But back then, wrestling became cool. Professional wrestling became cool. It became, young people were totally into it,
Yeah.
from not just the, you know, kid that was 7 or 8 years old. Everybody in high school, people were talking about stuff. Like, we were talking about wrestling, and of course, the even the old people that you might think at the time in their 30s and 40s, they were into it too. So you had this great cross promotion, and then at the time it was it's family entertainment. Everything was it's for everybody. We got something for everybody.
Yeah,
So
you're right
great.
about that too. It really changed because no longer are you dealing with, oh, it's just men and they're just like, "Rrr," and they're hurting each other and there might be
Yeah.
blood. Like, you can't bring Timmy and Sarah to go see that. Oh, you can bring their kids to go see this fun event coming to your town. I saw you on Tuesday Night Titans. I'm gonna buy a ticket. Going
Yeah.
Saturday, and boom, that's how you made your money. All these shows we're talking about, even on WBTS, there was just promotional tools to get you to go buy tickets to go see us locally. We weren't making,
Hmm.
you saw it up, you said it. Vince wasn't making money. He was buying pretty much an hour long commercial time on your
Yeah.
station to sell come this Saturday or Sunday to my events, where I'll make all my money back off of paying this deal that might work out, might not work out. Obviously, it worked out. But
Yeah,
man,
but also, you think about what was great about it too is that they did present these guys like they were superheroes,
yeah,
and these characters, and there was many of them. I mean, of course, Hulk was the driving that bus, but you also had these other characters that you could identify with. And the the greatest thing about it is that you didn't just have to wait to see them on television. You could go see that guy in person. And
yeah,
yeah, and they could be, you know, 2 feet away from you, and you could be there in the arena, and you could, see these guys. And like I said, they had something for everybody at some point. Once we got into it with, Coco Beware had Frankie,
right,
British
right, right,
Bulldogs had Matilda. They had the costuming of it all, and they were these bigger than life characters. Hulk certainly the top of that heap, man. Just I've mentioned many times, just the pop, the feeling like when you would be in these packed arenas and he would come in. Uh, it was some of the great. It was the biggest moment of their life to that point, to see that happen. And you could just see it. I used to love to go back. I'd come out from backstage there, and then I wouldn't watch the ring. I would watch the people, because I got such a kick out of, the joy, the look on these kids' faces, and older people too, because they were there and he's here, and you'd feel it. It was a physical feeling. It wasn't just you weren't just hearing it, you were feeling it. Just so it was very cool then.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points about that, because in today's world, house shows don't really exist any longer. I can go on social media and find out what my favorite wrestler ate for breakfast. But at this
Yeah.
point in time, the only way I could actually see them, not in a magazine or not on your regular programming on television, was for me to buy a ticket to come physically see you. And
Yeah.
it was a different feeling. It was a different atmosphere, because now even musicians or celebrities, I can see mostly everything you're doing all day long if I follow you on social media, versus now I need to buy this ticket because I need to see you. And so it's different. And the WWF expands even more, though. They take trips across the world, going to Kuwait, going to Qatar, we're going to Egypt. Again, another expansion. You're not just staying in your backyard. You're going everywhere because you want everything. Like Vince McMahon and Hogan, talk about that for a second. How of a gamble is it to go internationally, places that you don't really hear much about? You always hear about Japan. You always hear about Mexico. You never really hear about Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, I think you just could call them experiments to just see what kind of reaction you would get in other far reaches of the world.
Mm.
The UK really was the first real test of because it wasn't some strange foreign country. In a sense, they spoke English, um, and so that was kind of the natural place that they would really, when it came down to do like formal tours, and we had Sky Television, which was on a regular basis programming there. But yeah, early on that they did do some of these kind of odd tour places they would go, and I don't think initially that this is gonna be a regular thing, but they wanted to test and see, okay, we're gonna get there. So what's that gonna look like? And so and with Vince McMahon, like I said, when those early meetings, I'm sure with Hulk Hogan, that was part of the discussion too. Oh brother, it's not gonna stay here. We're gonna go all over the world,
We're going to go to Egypt, dude. Fight the pharaohs.
brother, yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, to Vince McMahon, there was when he started rolling. I don't think that as things went along, he said, "Oh, well, what about maybe we can go somewhere else?" I think this was always right. Like it's all part of the plan.
They had a vision board going.
The what?
A vision board where the things they want.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as Terry tells the story that within those hours of those early discussions that they laid it all out, and they both had this vision of just worldwide dominance. This whole thing of we're just going to take the world by storm. And Vince saw it. Vince saw Hulkamania, the possibilities, and that Hulk Hogan did.
Well, it's a great brand. It's again Americana. It seems like even in '84, even maybe not so much now, but for a long time it was like, I need to get those blue jeans from America. I need to get the music from America to other countries, and it seemed like that was a big thing for a long time. But Hulk Hogan, I think at the tail of '84, is becoming the first international wrestler. Obviously, we've had wrestlers go to Japan and Mexico and other places, but this is the first time I think we're recognizing a figure without really knowing them. We see his face, we know his mustache, we know his clothes, his colors. Like he's becoming the first ever international wrestler that is recognized throughout the world. Like, would you say
Everywhere.
that's the case towards the end of '84, as we wrap this up? Would you agree?
Oh yeah. And and the thing that's crazy about it, Steve, is we're not even scratching the surface of where it would go by talking 86, 87 and beyond there. So to even think of this is where they are at this point,
I know.
Yeah, it's just mind blowing.
It's pretty crazy to think that Hulk Hogan's rise, winning the World Championship of January '84, leads to the breakthrough with MTV, buying Maple Leaf Wrestling, getting on TBS, getting off TBS. There's just so much more of Hulk Hogan's career we're going to discuss here on the rise of Hulkamania here on Prime Time with Sean Mooney. But this episode is talking about 1984. It's crazy. We talked about Marvel wanting Hulk Hogan's money, Black Saturday, just 1 year. This is just 1 year. We have so much more. 85, the rise of WrestleMania, being on the A-Team, Hogan going to the Grammys, so many little things like that haven't happened yet. So I'm very excited here with you to discuss this. But before we wrap this up, what were your thoughts on this year so far? Because a lot has happened. Yeah,
and it was a pivotal point of the career of Hulk Hogan, because as you just named all these things, imagine all this happening. But it's all taking shape, and I think that Vince McMahon is realizing, this is happening, and it is exactly what we thought it could be, and people are getting it. And as I said, it was just the beginning.
It's true. It's true. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching us right here on Prime Time with Sean Mooney, talking about the rise of Hulkamania. I'm Seafall. He's the Moonstar. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's the Golden Age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasies.